All set?
Okay.
All right. So, thanks for coming. It's obviously poetry on a Tuesday night here. And I've read the smaller crowds. Happy to get the new book out, and it was a long time coming, and I'll just go ahead and kick into it. Started the book with a poem called Lend Me Some Moonshine. Just let me borrow a beautiful drop of that soft fire, that blaze whisper inducement for speaking the Almighty's name, such assistance driving the old ghost skittering for the dark corners deep in the night rooky wood. All I need is a taste of tranquility, dispersed like the smile-muted laughter of full-throated creek water, a steadiness surrounded by stars, a chariot confidence, smoothing out the glare of day, spinning along with delicate bare touch and comfort, illumination from a distance far above the hard earth. I'll pay you back, you know I'm good for it. That old shimmer sighs, and with a wild kindness brightens up the shadow paths. Join me. We can both fight back the gray clouds and weave our way once again to this same place tomorrow. Play children's games, recall our innocent past. With a little shine, we can change, become half, quarter, a bright sliver of what we were. This one is called Mrs. Hughes' Low Readers. I don't know if when you came through school if you were ever put into reading groups of various abilities, but this poem is dedicated to that situation. Mrs. Hughes' Low Readers. Mrs. Hughes could throw a tight spiral. She'd slap the pigskin yelling, "Go long!" and our fourth grade Goonie squad of boys were all galloping for the goalposts. Mrs. Freeney's boy and girl mixed bluebirds politely played their fine little game of foursquare. Mrs. McInerney's heterogeneously grouped redbirds patiently waited for the ball and their turn to toe the line and aim at the basket. While Mrs. Hughes raucously laughed at us slow crows getting down and dirty, she'd mud up her old lady shoes and say, "So what?" She'd bark, "3, sugar, catch this ball or eat a booger," and she'd let that 64-year-old arm cock and release a sweet pass the NFL's best could only dream of. The bluebirds and redbirds sniffed at our sweat and grime. So what? She'd call, and we'd silly bop strut single file behind Mrs. Hughes in her gingham dress and jacket combo, always the last to retire from recess for reading. And as those other birds of a feather gushed over talking lions and wardrobes or wept about life on the prairie, Mrs. Hughes would hustle us to her round table, where knights fought dragons and swore by swords, while we cheered and rose, charging forward, giving our best and hanging on her every word. This one's called Lao Boy. The kids like him. He's a different critter. He's bursting out of control crazy whenever he's hanging with them. The parents note the volume of the boy's voice, ratcheted with coarse screeching undertones, excited out of his pale skin. He has chippy gray squirrel in his eyes, his body language. He's bold and boisterous when visiting their bright summer pool, appearing wildly happy, seal barking and splashing at every strict game rule, throwing himself with unskilled abandon off the diving board, falling into water from dashing slips along the edge. A grand jokester, a jester of feverish energy, side-splitting the other kids with his silliness. The parents are unsure. The boy's voice zealously bounces off the placid neighbors' homes, surpassing their own children's tidy squall. His octaves infused with foot-in-a-trap animal ball. At lunch, he eats grilled hot dogs with large beaver chomps and mustard splatter, eliciting giggles from dazzled children. The parents attempt mild corrections, but he diffuses them, proclaiming their hospitality and food to be first class. He gives it an A+. He cannot remember such a magnificent day. When the watch time arrives, the parents load the buzzing swarm of children, and the minivan ride to take him home becomes a reverberating bell jar, though his ridiculous trumpets diminish as they approach his shade-drawn home. Then he slows to a rabbit-like caution. The parents check the rearview mirror to see if he's still there. He has become mole quiet. There are untamed lines in his face they could not see in the sunshine. He has become flattened, inaudible, exits the car with an elderly fatigue that makes them fear he will enter his silent house, never to be heard from again. This one's called Ice Cream. The carnival is in town. You've odd-jobbed the dull neighborhood for 3 hard weeks planning your crazy move and have enough money to try this dating thing. You make the phone call. There are insect crawls beneath your skin. The sweat on your head at the follicles percolates in geysers. She says yes. You stroke 10 blocks to her house, burning up the bottoms of your sneakers. Tried counting the sun-warmed concrete squares to settle yourself. Became confused, lost, birds in the trees singing or laughing. A summer day has settled into a droning level of just plain hot. Thinking about how you're going to knock and die saying hello to her mother, but your date is sitting on the stoop, bounds out to meet you saying hi. When did she take your hand? Why did that carny smile and present her with a teddy bear when you threw wide on all 3 tries at the milk bottle game? Did the sleepy town grow bigger, the carnival lights brighter, when she pointed out the school and church and people below and places you never knew the name of from the top of the Ferris wheel? This girl smells sweeter than blue cotton candy. Her giggles and screams erase all fear in the funhouse on the tilt-a-whirl. The evening is cool. The concrete squares are old friends on the random slow walk home. She has a teddy bear and a bag of water with a crazed goldfish bearing your name clasped in one hand. The other is occupied with a mint chocolate chip cone. Her tongue rolls around the edge, and then she puts it up to your mouth. You're sharing this with a girl. Your taste buds are rapturous, calling out hallelujahs to your electrified skin, the intoxicated top of your head. Maybe your favorite was vanilla before. Maybe you can't even remember before, but you know what your favorite flavor of ice cream is now, though you can never go back. You know you don't want to go back. Yeah, I like writing the boy-girl poems. This one, another sort of adolescent poem about a certain age. It's called Why I Want My License, Mom, God. I don't want to be herded up, out, breakfast barred, and minivan to school. Don't want to hear your world of economic talk radio or your attempts at parental check-in on schoolwork that Dad Easy Boy slumbered through after last night's and every night's meal. Your interminable preach on respecting teachers and how girls think and how to conduct myself to get them. If I had a license, I would buy the cheapest beater available with bald tires, happy to burn oil and wear out the shift plate, and I'd smile while lying late in bed, pushing sleep to the Z degree before skipping breakfast and cranking my heaterless car and my own tunes, maybe pick up my wrong people to hang out with buddies, if I could just get a license. If God cares about me, He will parallel park my young ass forward in time so that I'm old enough to accept and responsibly sneer at responsibility. I swear, God, I will not text behind the wheel. I will not run down squirrels and little old ladies confused and scattering in the streets. Just deliver me from ever again being of this age where I get dragged to the mall and stand there dying while my mother lingers in lingerie, fingering the lace on the edge of bras, while the sophomore girl I like from my life skills class smirks behind the snack counter, dreaming of love and explosions in a gasoline combustion engine that will roar us both out of the sad little place we're in. I saw a boy standing in lingerie with his mother, and that inspired that one. I thought he was going to just pass out. He was so sad. All right. First date putt-putt. I'm on a theme here. You figure it out fast. She's terrible. So, smoothing the ball through the teeny tunnel beneath the twirling windmill isn't important. Not when she picks hers up in frustration, storming to the other side for a drop after 6 backward ricochets in a row. You nervously stuff the score pad in your back pocket. Then, lining up, you imagine a big Bertha driver and a rolling green par 5 laid out in front of you. Time to get your game on. Keeping your head down, you stroke that pink-colored missile into the turning tines, duck as it whistles by, banking off the smirking head of the papier-mâché clown on hole 13, narrowly missing a fat dude chomping a cigar while having trouble finding his shot when looking straight down. Her mouth drops open, then bursts with sparkle laughter prettier than the koi pond waterfall dancing behind her. Fat dude sputters and cusses you. There's a righteous den in the noggin of the circus clown, and the pimply teenager in the Pugaloosie's premier PuttPutt shack leans out his smudgy window and puberty change squeaks at you to settle down. This was your big game plan. You only had enough money for one game. Nothing more, not even a vending machine Coke. Smiling like a slice of watermelon, she coyly asks you to reach around and show her how to do it. You get yourself centered and oblige, telling her to get comfortable, take her time, slow and easy. She's warm, smells like primrose. The evening lights blink on like big fireflies. This game could take all night. Yeah, I'm going to stick with that theme. You can tell I teach teenage boys all the time, right? There it is. When a girl's mom doesn't like you, it's one funny working man thing when you walk in for the first time and her dad is whetstoning a long hunting knife, cat grinning, hello. You catch on to the game fast, and so you nod. A father's greeting shots to sniff out what you're made of. He's just making blue jay noise, and you're a cardinal, flashing your own blood color, open to the possibility of perches on both sides of the feeder. Dad winks. He can play with that. But when you half-shake welcome with her cold palm mom, your nervous system sounds instinctual alarms, and you know you're in real trouble. You catch the hawk pierce in her eyes above the aquiline smile of hospitality, noting how the chitter-chat is formal, ritual. You get that involuntary shiver, that old call of danger lurking. She confidently pulls away to a perfect living room ensemble, waits there like a shadow on a branch, her outline predatory, patient, indifferently ravenous, for you to take wing. Given the chance, she will eat you alive. Saw a couple of those moms along the way. This one is coming out in an anthology that is New England authors who are trying to celebrate Donald Hall. It's called Wild Honey. It's after a poem of his called The Bear. Wild honey. Tilt the head back, sniff the air. Clover and apple blossom dapple the breeze. A mellifluous buzz and incantation moaning somewhere close, just out of sight, hidden within a hollow. Drones beeline straight back to home, mindlessly eager to prove themselves to colony and queen. Follow them. Love waits at the end of that line. Wild honey. You're always clawing your way to it. A persistent thirst for nectar, fluid heartbeat, feral swarming. Whatever impediments force themselves attempting to impede your way, they all weaken against instinctual pull. You shoulder, brush, climb, fight off whatever angrily wishes to sting you back. But the pricks and poisons cannot prevent your wreak of havoc, a luscious tearing apart. Nothing out there presents not nearly as sweet as painful, a taste of relentless truth. Nothing else provides this momentary and boundless devouring of star-filled night, cool creek water flowing, earth flowering in worship. You escape into the honey, knowing you too have been scented. You know by heart that the hunt for you is coming, flying straight through the trees. This one's called One-Legged Crow. Starting to move out of some of the other ones and more to the adult poems now, I think. One-Legged Crow. I see him list in a dead tree at the edge of my cornfield, rumpled black balloon tethered by a forked string. He somehow manages to fly, hop, scrounge, much like the others, though they deny him entry into their murders. One group of three ignores him as if they deem him inferior. Another crew screams through gravel throats, angry to even share their territory. He humbly takes leave, flies 3 trees away, landing with a more delicate and thoughtful grip. My daughter wants to feed him, leave marmalade toast and pizza crust, her pity and innocence reaching out to assist, to steady his perch. When she approaches with her offered plate, one leg calls out, warning to 3 feathered pieces of night stealing sunshine and corn, and they launch away without thank you. Leaving the scraps, my daughter returns to our farm porch. We watch him cock his head and study this contrary world. He releases his tenuous hold on the branch and dives, arcs beautifully over my car, decorating the windshield. He does not need our help, does not care what we surmise, soars up with a caw, 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 letting us know he is fine, fine, fine. A little bit more morbid series here. This one's called When Your Diner Waitress Dies. That Wednesday special gnaws a little drier than usual. No thick sass on the sandwich. Black coffee tastes like somebody lost their magic on the perfect roast. She knew your name, laughed at your jokes. Shaggy dog stories you had reviewed later, finding slim humor. She called you slim, in spite of the belt dumpling. She called the love of your life honey. Served her first. A shoulder touch for you when she slapped your order down. Crooked smile, a wink. 31 years. Sunday breakfast, lunches here and there. Never missed a Friday all-you-can-eat lip-smacking fish fry. 52 times 31. Miss Trita. Loved the hustling ways she knew to make a red vinyl stool spin. Doo-wopping. We always slid more than fair tips under the coffee cups and never saw anything less than a delicious mischief plated our way. A little lost without that dependable top off. Hell, She called me honey too. Pop on his deathbed said 55 years ago, he recognized my bony spine and narrow teenage butt hanging out a car window while mooning all of the proper finery at the after-church potluck meal out on the lawn, him puzzle staring while eating strawberry shortcake. Laughed, wheezing, more confessions. How he let me have my rebel run. He turned even more thankful for the clarity that clung to him when the tubes and machines became unleashed. Continued hooting about me, about lighting me and my high school buddies up with rock salt loads from his smoking shotgun barrel when we sneaked and stole watermelons and corn from his garden, thinking the theft made everything sweeter. I'd earlier watched him packing shells with ice cream salt, understood that flight and distance created minimal risk of getting vein burned and pierced with the light crystals he aimed and loosened down the hard-tilled rows as a lesson that, at best, might sting a little into tomorrow. He shifted on the hospital sheets and chortled about identifying my stride in the moon dark, taking ineffectual pot shots at his wayward son. He knew all. Admitted to marking bottles of the various fire waters in the liquor cabinet, noting when and how much the adolescent drains amounted to. He kept himself quiet on the short count of cigarettes in his packs, the missing nickels and dimes he had dug out of the pockets of his dirty work pants and tossed in a change jar. He never said nothing about dents in the sides of his cars, that one particular blemish forever in the back seat. He found himself perfectly content all those years not talking to me about any of it. Old school Pop, making his kind of exit. I found my own laughter, happy with his choices, took his hand, and he passed. All finally became and remained good between us. Last poem for the evening. It's called Trespassing, Thieving. Adult crisis, perhaps. Do I tell my child to behave, to share, choose right over wrong, without hating myself for hypocrisy? I don't consider myself a bad man, but if I spin the tales of my youth, the watermelon my friends and I took from a neighbor's garden, putting it in the spring house for later, do I circumvent or document the revelry of late-night sorties through cornfields, filling brown paper bags with ears destined for boiling water, butter, and salt? Can I say how much our veins burned with power when the farmer's shotgun rained birdshot through the rows, sparking flight and laughter and joyous recounting of the story when later the stolen feast dribbled from our lips? If I put my son on my knee and yarn my youth the way I lived it, how will he grow? Did we really sneak out to the backlot ponds, cast lines for fish, sitting against the post bearing its sign of ownership and lettered warnings of prosecution for trespassing? Was there any roam in the county we didn't dare? Because the world was before us. We wanted that world together. And for that moment in time, it was. I feel the duty to raise a good son. My quandary is to make him understand that hunger can be satisfied, that friendship and watermelon, cold as that, are sweeter than sunlight. For now, I own the words I dare him to snatch. Go where you will. Take as much love as you can. Thank you. I appreciate it, folks. Thank you.
And those books on the table.
You mentioned about seeing the poor kid in the lingerie department as being an inspiration for that particular piece.
Mm-hmm.
Anything that prompted you to write the others, that were they just the imagination running amok?
No, I pretty much start with some truth and then I create fictions out of it. So, yeah, did I steal all of those vegetables from farmers and home? Yeah, I did all that. Did I get shot at with rock salt? Yeah, all of it.
I like Mrs. Hughes.
Mrs. Hughes, yeah.
And doesn't your window of your classroom look over like the middle school playground
Yeah,
where
it
they
does.
play Foursquare?
Yeah, it's fun.
I could just picture that's what
It's
you were
very
looking
fun to
at.
look out there and see the kids. And I actually get my creative writing kids to go stand at the window and like, what are the stories? You know, look across the entire group and what are the stories? And they come up with things. It's fun. Yeah, yeah. Did a few things in youth.
Are you doing readings in yourself?
Just got contacted by Innisfree today. And
Oh.
so, yeah, they're gonna set up something in Meredith and I'm gonna work on some more. And Tim Siebel's a writer friend of mine, he contacted me this week talking about maybe doing a panel discussion at AWP in San Antonio next year on, let's see if I can get this right, masculinity, growing up, north and south, black and white. So what we're looking at is getting a white poet and a black poet from the south and a white poet and a black poet, guys from the north, and sort of doing a comparative, how has that influenced the...
Where do you fit in with that now? Are you north or south?
I think it seems like the magazines that publish me are all below the Mason-Dixon line for the most part. Yeah, I mean, I've got that one coming out in the Donald Hall anthology, but otherwise, it's generally Southern magazines. I think my voice still rings that way, though I have lived in the North longer than I lived in the South. So, I'm sort of a Northerner now. Retta goes, no. I don't know, does the accent come out in the reading more?
Yes.
I would think it does.
Absolutely.
Depends
Yeah.
on the poem.
Depends on the
Oh,
poem.
yes, I agree.
Yeah,
Yeah.
depending on the poem.
Yeah.
How much time do you put,
Oh, go ahead.
how much time do you put into dedicating to writing for yourself? Where you're a teacher, you do all these other things?
Not enough.
Not enough?
Yeah, not enough. It is generally weekends. And then it is, I know this is my editor, she has to put up with all this. Vacation time in summer, I push myself to knock out roughly at least a piece every 2 days, if not every day. I mean, I keep notebooks and then I just go for it when I have space. But I don't have space often enough.
You will soon.
Yeah.
Yeah, we shall see. I don't think I'm done with working. We'll see what the next step is.
Are you retiring?
I am. End of this year.
Wow, soon.
I don't think that means I'm done. Not by a long shot. Yeah.
What's your biggest motivator to write? What is it that drives you the most? Is it just having all of these crazy stories in your mind or these experiences, or what motivates you to kind of put pen to paper?
Gosh, I think I've been doing it so long. It's sort of like I've always said the thing that made me a writer was math class. I was in 10th grade math and I was dying.
Makes sense.
Just hated it. And one day I wrote down some lines and I went, I like that. And I looked at the board and I went, I don't like that. So I spent that entire year of math class writing. And it's probably why I repeated Algebra 2 in high school. And I've just been doing it ever since. But I know that writing regularly is much better than spacing it out. You know, you have a much better rhythm when you write often.
Without being in the classroom or staring out the window at the kids in the playground, do you feel that your inspiration for poetry itself will actually be different?
I think Gail would say my writing's different of late, even just since this book. Yeah, you know, I put this manuscript together, and it's been a few years of stuff, and what am I most excited about? It's always like the next poem. I'm doing some very dense, layered things right now, which works for some editors and doesn't work for others. You know, it's I'm not a nice, like with this book titled Moonshine Narratives, I wasn't even trying to just go, these are nice little poems. They're narratives. And so I like telling a story, but I want to do it with the economy of poetry, so I sort of do this strange hybrid that works for some magazines, and there are other magazines that I don't even bother sending to because I know their taste, and they'll not publish the kind of thing that I write.
Well, that brings up another question. The whole narrative, are you also doing short stories still?
I've only written one in the past year, and I started a second one and started floundering with it, and I went, I'm going to get back to poetry. Though I like the one story that I wrote. But I was, the Naugatuck River Review, which is out of Connecticut, it's not a Southern magazine. They have an annual narrative poetry competition, and it's blind judging, and I got second place in that. So going up against people from all over the world, and took second. But it's nice when it's blind judging that you know that the judge doesn't have some name recognition of another poet. So that felt good. That was a nice thing to shoot.
And where can one purchase this book?
Back to the table.
Well, good, thank you. I'm very happy that you guys came. That made me feel good.
Okay.
Ladies,
All right,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Thanks, Brent.